Welcome back, guys. I have a very special guest once again. I have Alessio Rastani with me from leadingtrader.com and, of course, his famous YouTube channel. Alessio, thanks very much for joining us again.
Yeah. Thanks very much for having me, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. I had a few people since the last time ask a question about what are your views on the markets, because at a particular time, maybe just a month or two ago, we were looking at the stock markets heading down. And so things may have flipped bearish and now we see a bit of a reversal. But in today's video, we want to also discuss a lot on the macro picture of Bitcoin as well and what you see happening. The other things you had going on in the background, we're talking with Bob Prechter. We're getting that right?
Prechter, yeah.
Prechter, sorry. He wrote the Elliott Wave book, which is another big piece of analysis that you like to look at. So, guys, we've got a lot to cover today. And if you're wondering about how you can get in contact with Alessio, you know the deal. The links are always in the video description. So, yeah, I think first up, I reckon an interesting place to start is obviously just the stock market, because there was a little bit of a shift in view there. But just before we get into it, I really appreciate someone who can view both sides of the market and flip when their theory it changes based on their rules. What we have seen, and my viewers know too well, that the majority of people continue to double down on the bearish narrative, yet I like your open-mindedness. So what are your views at the moment on the stock market after it hit a low in October?
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are some analysts who just double down on their views. My focus, the way I do my analysis, and I think we have something in common here, Jason, is that both of us have a strong respect for probabilities. And I don't see this in the YouTube community. From reading the comments, it seems a lot of people on YouTube and social media, their view is, hey, tell me where it's going. Just tell me just tell me for certainties, the certainty of where it's going. I mean, they don't say it that way, but you can see between the lines. That's what they're saying. For example, a lot of the YouTube comments say, why do you speak in this kind of language of probabilities? Just tell me where it's going. Just tell me where this market's going. And you can't do that. I mean, no, I have no respect for any analyst who speaks in that kind of language. Oh, we're definitely going down, or we're going down, or we're going up. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you see it in the YouTube titles as well. Like the titles will say, they're lying to you, market's definitely going up.
You're talking about some of my YouTube titles, but that's fine. That's fine.
No. No, I wasn't talking about yours, but I've seen.
No, I know. We know who we're talking about, and I think the viewers also see that happen often.
What I mean is, if there's one thing that the markets are really good at, this is the one thing the markets are very good at. It's humiliating the analysts and traders. You and I, people like you and I, we get constantly humiliated by the markets when we're wrong. So when we're right, great, fantastic. It's great when we're right, but occasionally we're human beings. We don't have crystal balls, even though people think that's exactly what we do have. They think a lot of people think Elliott Wave theory and for example, your cycle analysis that you do, Jason, they think that's like a crystal ball to see into the future. That's not what it is. It's just we're looking at the data, we're assessing the probabilities, and tell you what we think is most likely. Okay. And I have to mention also in my videos, as I often do, when I might change my mind and admit that I'm wrong. And we had a false signal back in October. I was wrong about my bearish call in October. But I should just put it in context that since January of this year, since January of 2023, I've been bullish on the stock market and also for Bitcoin as well. In fact, in January, I had a target of nearly 4,500, about 4,456, and we hit those levels. And I remember back in January, the majority of social media opinion, including most analysts, were extremely bearish. So I went against, and I think you did too, I went against the majority opinion from the start this year. And in July, I was calling for a correction. I don't want to bore your audience with all the details, but essentially what happened was in October, the market broke support levels, and there were several bearish signals, like the Dow theory bearish signal, which is something I pay attention to, break of support. There were several other factors. I think there were some breadth danger warnings. But yeah, it looks like it was a false signal by the way things are going, although we haven't got confirmation yet. But go ahead, sorry.
No, that's all right. I think you're right. It seemed like a false signal, and sometimes those happen, and it's just a matter of taking just that little bit further step back on the time frame, because by the end of the month it just had turned around. And so, like they say, the markets always do just enough to fool the most amount of people most of the time, and then it just gets us. And I think even at that time, like, I was looking for a low in that downtrend roughly early October, and then it happened to go that extra bit further, and I thought, what's going on here? But exactly.
That's true. I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting that little bit drop either. I thought we're going to bottom. I think it was mid-October. So that extra drop that it had got me worried, got me concerned, because that again, it was a false signal in hindsight. This is what people don't appreciate. Everyone's a genius in hindsight. But when analysts, when you and I, when we make decisions and do our analysis, we do it in real time. So it's very difficult to say, it's very easy in hindsight to say to the analyst, you got it wrong. Okay, fine. Sometimes you get it wrong, sometimes you get it right. But you have to appreciate that we're doing analysis in real time. So we have to see the charts as we see it at that time, and also in the context of the different elements. But anyway, I don't want to bore your audience with too much.
That's all right. We've got plenty of charts to have a look at, but I think everyone can appreciate when someone can review their analysis and admit something and say, look, maybe it wasn't completely spot on, but this happens. None of the analysis is 100%. There are false signals. And I think between you and I, we have pretty, I think, well-rounded audiences now, and they can appreciate that, as opposed to other audiences which are just expecting confirmation and 100% certainty. So people can very much appreciate that.
Just to give you one final bit of clarification. So yes, it is true. Back in October, there was a bearish signal. However, I realize it was a false signal probably, but in about a month ago, in early November, after the start of that rally, the beginning of that rally, I then changed my mind. I think the price was just under 4,300, 4,000. Yeah, it was after that first bar, that big first green bar in November. No, that's the next one. Yes, that's the one, exactly. So I then changed my perspective at that point to neutral, or 50. I said it was 50-50, because I was waiting to see how the market reacted afterwards. Now, what is interesting is the market has done something quite unusual in its movement, because the pullbacks were extremely shallow. Now, there is a reason for that, which we don't have time to go into. But what I was waiting for, and what I still do not have, is confirmation. So even though I'd been neutral in the market for about a month from that first green bar since November, early November, exactly. So we went to 50-50 or neutral. But one thing I did not get is confirmation by taking out the July highs. We don't have a confirmation, because if we take that level out, as I mentioned in my previous video, if we take that level out, the odds increase significantly for a move towards all-time highs. And as long as any pullbacks are corrective, not impulsive. But anyway, that's about it. Obviously, I know you want to talk about Bitcoin, but that's basically my view at the moment. We don't have confirmation just yet.
We'll get into that, and we're going to do a video on your channel, so guys, go and check that out. And I'll talk about that specifically in the video we do over there, just looking at confirmation and maybe earlier confirmation, just based on a few other things. But for now, I think it's probably a good time just to get into some Bitcoin. I'll bring up your charts. What's this first one we have here?
So if we were to measure this first initial rally from the lows of 2022 all the way to where that market went to, the Bitcoin went to in, I believe that was April. And then, obviously, this section here was an ABC. So this over here, as we said before, A, B, C, okay, is a corrective structure. And by the way, for people who are wondering, we called this at the time. We said this was a corrective ABC, correct. In other words, we said this is a corrective ABC pattern, because some people think, oh, well, in hindsight, it looks that way. No, back at the time, we said this is very likely an ABC structure. Okay. Now, if you measure the first initial rally, the first initial thrust, and then you project that from the recent low we made, then the 100%, so the 100% projection, as you can see, it says 1. That means 100%. That brings us to about the level we just reached recently, 40,000 or 40,490, as you can see there. And these are standard linear extensions, or Fibonacci extensions, okay, symmetrical projections. Now, the 1618 extension, as you can see in blue, takes us to 50,000 approximately, which is also very close to the 61.8% golden ratio standard linear retracement of the entire decline. So if you were to measure the entire decline from the highs of 2021 to the lows of 2022, the 61.8% golden ratio retracement gives us that level at 48K approximately, 48, 47. I like it when these levels merge, by the way. 48K merges with 50K, the 1618.
Yep, we can see the price cluster there between the 48.5 and 50. Yep.
I'm glad you said those words, price cluster. That is precisely what I'm looking at. A price cluster between 48, or probably 47, 48 to 50K. If Bitcoin can get to those levels, and I think it probably, I think it's quite likely, given the momentum we're seeing on the chart. As long as Bitcoin can stay above 34, 35K, I think we got a bit more push to that level. Again, the 61.8% golden ratio retracement and the 1618 extension of that first wave from the lows here to about 50K. 48 to 50K approximately is the level I'm looking at for the next target to be reached, probably by the end of this year. If not by the end of this year, by January. I think that's quite likely. That's where I'm looking at for Bitcoin to reach. Now, this is why it matters, because I think at that point, a lot of people are going to be extremely bullish. I think I'll show you the sentiment chart in a minute, but I think a lot of people are going to get extremely bullish at that point. And what I'm waiting to see is how Bitcoin then retraces from that level. So once Bitcoin reaches this region, as you can see here, once Bitcoin reaches this region of 47, 48 to 50K, what I want to see then is how Bitcoin pulls back, how it retraces or pulls back. And here's what you're going to be waiting, and here's what I would say your viewers, Jason, should be watching for. If the pullback is corrective, in other words, 3 waves, one way you can tell a corrective pattern is look for overlaps, lots of overlapping sections. If it's 3 waves, that's a good sign for Bitcoin. That means it could potentially move towards all-time highs. As long as the pullback is corrective, it's a bullish sign for Bitcoin. However, if the pullback is impulsive, if it's composed of 5 waves, like this, then that's a very dangerous sign. If we see a pullback on the daily chart, by the way, I'm talking about daily charts and 60-minute charts. I don't know yet what kind of structure we're going to get. So for people who are asking, are we going to go towards all-time highs? I would say, let's wait and see how Bitcoin reacts to resistance. Resistance, assuming we get to this resistance at 48 to 50K, which I think is likely. So let's wait until we get to those resistance levels. Let's see what kind of structure Bitcoin forms when it pulls back. And then we can determine whether we're going to go towards all-time highs or not. Again, 5-wave pattern would be dangerous. 3, because it would mean we've probably topped, but corrective would mean we're got more upside to go. But there is one more thing I need to mention here. There's a few more things I need to mention. Okay, now this is what's called a sentiment cycle, showing the different emotions that people go through in the different stages of a rally and a decline. So this is not the chart of any particular market. This is just a sentiment cycle. As you can see, different emotions that people go through during rallies and bullish and bearish phases. My personal view is that very soon we're going to reach this region. As you can see, the maximum optimism. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're going to get there soon. Maximum optimism or last gasp stage, I think we're going to be there soon. Probably by the time we get to 48 to 50K, assuming we haven't got there yet, but I don't think we've got there yet. But I think once we get to 48 to 50K, we're going to be reaching the maximum optimism and probably last gasp before another decline, another pullback occurs, a major pullback. I'm not saying it's going to crash like this. I'm just saying we could then see a major pullback once we get to that region. And then we'll see what kind of structure we get from that. People are probably wondering, okay, where are we in the wave count? And I had a chat with Bob Prechter, analyst Bob Prechter, who's a elite wave expert. His view is that we've already topped. So Bob's view is that we've already topped. And I'll show you his wave count in a minute.
For Bitcoin or for the stock markets?
No, for both, actually, as a matter of fact. He's
both. All right.
Yeah. Now, I don't necessarily agree with Bob, although I respect him. I think he makes a strong case for why Bitcoin has stopped. I'm neutral at the moment still for, well, actually, I'm neutral. I'm neutral to cautiously, let's put it this way. We don't have confirmation yet. So I'm waiting
for the stock market or for Bitcoin. Sorry.
No, what I'm saying, I'm sorry. What I'm saying is we don't have confirmation for the stock market yet. So I need to take out, we need to take out the July highs for me to get bullish on the stock market. At the moment, I'm still neutral. Let's wait and see. But for Bitcoin, I think Bob makes a strong case that we've probably topped on Bitcoin back at the 69, 70K back in 2021. However, let me say
Gotcha.
that needs confirmation too. If we're in a bear market in Bitcoin, in other words, if this is a B wave bear market rally on Bitcoin, we're seeing, that means we're probably in a structure that you can see on the right hand side. That would mean we're probably here in the final B wave, before a major decline from 50K or 48K. Okay. So that would be the bearish perspective. In other words, if Bitcoin is rallying in this structure at the moment, which could be, if this is a bear market rally in Bitcoin, that means we're probably going to top somewhere between 48 to 50K and then start a C wave big decline below the lows of last year. I mean, this could be a very big, major drop. That's if we're dealing with this structure. However, if we are here in the final phase of the 5 of 5, that means we're probably going to make one more all-time high to about, probably going to take out 69K, maybe go to about 80K, maybe just over that, and then top and then start a decline. Now, if you're wondering which of these is most likely, I don't know yet. And the reason is I need to see how we drop, how we pull back from the next resistance at 48 to 50K. Again, the structure of the pullback from 50K or 48K will tell us which wave count we're dealing with. Okay, so for people who are wondering, tell us which one, let's wait and see how we pull back. It's too early at the moment for me to say. Okay, we'll find out. But let me just show you a couple of more charts.
If you had to pick one, if you had to pick one, would you be 51% bullish, 49% bearish, or vice versa?
I would say the odds, let me just go to this two charts. I would say the odds, okay, so this is the bearish view that Bob Prechter favors. I think Bob makes a strong case that we've topped. And it's not just him.
What about you? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, it's okay. It's fine. So I asked Bob about this bullish perspective. I don't know if you saw that video on the bullish perspective. This is the bullish wave count going towards all-time highs in the 5 of 5. So this is the bullish all-time high. Yeah, 5 of 5. Just
this is the one saying that we will break $69,000.
Exactly. This is the one. Now, Bob said, and this is interesting, I think that he makes a very persuasive case. Okay, so he questioned the C wave of this wave 4. He said this was in this kind of expanding diagonal pattern, the C wave would have been much sharper. In other words, he would expect much more sharper C wave drop and then a rally from here. But he's saying we didn't get that. We didn't get that kind of expanding diagonal pattern. He's saying that looks more likely to be the top. The way that potential C wave dropped. In other words, that drop you see right there on the chart. He's saying no, that's not a C wave. That actually was the initial decline of a bear market of a top. In other words, the market's top in his view. And I think that's, he may have a good point there. Now, if you're asking what I think, I'm going to give Bitcoin the benefit of the doubt. So I honestly don't know which wave count at the moment is right. But so that's why I'm saying, let's wait and see how Bitcoin pulls back from the next resistance, 48 to 50K. I'm at the moment, I would say probably I'm still neutral on this view until Bitcoin gives me more confirmation, more additional information. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
That's all right. At what point are you looking at a price point, a time point for the correction that would validate or invalidate this theory? So if we got the correction from, call it 48 grand, if the market came down 30 odd % to something like the $30,000 level, I think that's about 30%, that's still validated in terms of a bullish structure. But if it broke underneath the 32K high where your cursor is right now, then that would mean that short Bitcoin's about to come back and put in a new cycle low.
This is going to be support. I mean, this is right. So we don't actually have to even wait for this level to break. If the pullback is impulsive, 5 waves, then it's already a dangerous sign. On the other hand, if we get a corrective overlapping structure, then that's a good sign for Bitcoin. But yeah, you're right in the sense that if we break the support in a strong, sustained way, that would also be a very dangerous sign for Bitcoin because it shouldn't break that support, 32, because a break of this would mean overlapping with the other previous structure, and that's not a good sign. So
exactly. Yeah, that's my thoughts. I reckon that's a fantastic piece, a nugget there to look out for because we've got an upside target now. We've got a rough time target. We've got a downside target to invalidate the theory or validate it. And, we're sort of, I mean, I don't want to say we're sitting on the fence here, but at the same time, in your analysis, we're just looking for that extra piece of confirmation here. But that didn't stop accumulation earlier on, just in case, because there's still a 3x multiple here from 15K to 48-ish. If we get to 48, we're currently at 42 as we film this. So there's still enough room to the upside to have gotten in earlier, which is exactly what we talked about earlier this year, or what you talked about earlier this year as well on your own channel. So yeah, it's not like we're waiting on that 50K target and then the pullback and then seeing if we get into Bitcoin, because there was just way too much gains on the table to sit this whole thing out.
Yeah, that's right. But it's going to be interesting. A and C are usually equal in length in corrective structures. And if you actually look here, you'll see we just hit the 100% symmetrical projection, as I mentioned earlier. If that's the first wave, A, let's call it A, then if this is a C wave, we've come exactly to the level where the C wave should top. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to top here. I would need confirmation. But if Bitcoin were to hold that resistance now and then break down below support, like 32, that would be a very dangerous sign that we've topped. Now, let me say this. I don't think that's likely. I'm not expecting that to happen. It's just a possibility I'm throwing out there, because what I'm saying is in corrective rallies, A wave and C waves are usually equal in length.
Well, we've got a lot of big targets to have a look at there. So I'm really happy that we had a chat with you to digest all of that information. If you guys want to see the other interview that we'll be doing on Alessio's channel, it's probably going to be a video where I just go all out bullish on Alessio, just to go through and show all my charts about how bullish I am on the markets, and maybe that'll get him to change his mind away from the potential catastrophes that we might see. But I'll leave that to the next video. So check out the links in the video description. Thanks once again, Alessio, for jumping on board with us and not doubling down on the old bearish narrative as many have. So yeah, much appreciated.
Thanks very much, Jason. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, guys. See you at the next one. Peace out.